the DigiPodcast, Digital Trends in Supply Chain Management.
Hello and welcome to our DigiPodcast. I'm Thomas Holzner from Siemens SCM Digi Network with the DigiPodcast, a podcast on digital and innovative topics for procurement in the future. Digitalization is becoming increasingly important for every company. At Siemens in particular, digitalization is a fundamental element for success. But how is digitalization practiced at Siemens Supply Chain Management? What do we focus on? The aspect of digital transformation and innovation is particularly close to our hearts. In our podcast, we highlight different aspects and share best practices with various digital experts and listen to their stories. Siemens has a double-digit billion euro purchasing volume, is working together with approximately around 100,000 suppliers and has several thousand employees across the globe. This is quite huge, isn't it? For this episode, I have a very special guest, Klaus Staubitzer, our Siemens Chief Procurement Officer. He is covering these challenges and a lot more. What exactly we will find out in today's episode. Hello Klaus, nice to have you here.
Hi Thomas, nice having me here in your podcast, very nice.
Thanks that you could take the time. Klaus, I'm aware that you are focusing to form a cost-cutting unit to a value-add orchestrator. Could you please explain what's behind a value-add orchestrator?
It's not me who wants to transform the organization to a value-add orchestrator. It's the whole team. I would like to take you a few years back. We had in 2017, 2018, a discussion, how do we transform the organization forward? And for that, we invited a lot of external consultants, a lot of internal guys to give us their input. How do we move? How do we transform the function going forward? And it turned out that the old story that you use procurement and supply chain as a pure cost cutter will not make the trick for the future. If you have, as you said already, if you have such a huge purchasing volume, if you have such a huge punch into the market, you have to think about how can you contribute as an added value more than just material productivity or our famous C&I. So that was the initial point where we thought about what could be an additional value for the business. And an additional value for the business could be, of course, ensure the availability, as you can see at the moment, very, very intensively. We're also pretty clear that aside from availability, the quality of all the products and services we buy from our suppliers are very relevant. And the innovation power of our suppliers could really make a difference. That was the point to say, okay, let's start and transform the function from the pure cost cutter focus to the value-add orchestrator.
That's a massive change. And when I think about 2017, quite a long time ago, but also looking at external benchmarks, you were one of the first guys who started this journey. And in between this journey, there was a pandemic. And based on the newspapers and some internal information, Siemens managed the pandemic quite well. Are there, due to these circumstances, any changes planned?
That's a very interesting question. You know why? Because I got these questions several times, not only from the internal organization, also from outside. But let me go back to this transformation process. As I said already, the transformation process from this pure cost cutter to the value-add orchestrator, there's one big lever we have to use and we have to adapt. That's the digitalization of our processes. And luckily, we started the digitalization journey of our processes already in 2017. So what does that mean for the situation during the pandemic? We were already pretty good prepared regarding transparency of our processes. And this transparency was one of the success factors to manage the pandemic situation pretty good. We had nearly no line stops and we were able to serve our people with a lot of things like masks and other protection equipment. At the very end, there were three major criteria which allows us to really deliver this performance. One is, of course, this transparency, as I said already. The second part was our global presence. And the most important thing is the expertise of our people and the trust in our global network. And these three things together allowed us to manage the last 16, 18 months at this high level of performance.
I think that sounds quite impressive. And what do you have in your mind for the future of supply chain management, especially in the digital age, as you already touched a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, digitalization as you rightfully said, digitalization is one of the biggest levers we have to use to make our transformation process happen. But digitalization is not a value per se. Digitalization is also not a threat. Digitalization is an opportunity to make things happen. And we all together have to find a way to use digitalization as an opportunity to make our life easier. To make it happen that people use digitalization as a lever to change their area of responsibility and how they work and how they use and make it efficient and make it more powerful. And therefore, digitalization is nothing you can send out from a top-down perspective as a master plan, which we typically did in the past. It's something you have to roll out on a bottom-up approach through the entire organization on a global base. This gives us the opportunity to use the worldwide expertise of our people and really find the right solution and tools to make our life easier.
I think that's a valid and important fact that you emphasize now on this relation to transformation, people, global network. If I would be now a CPO of another DAX company or a mid-sized company, would you have some hints for a CPO what he or she could do to also go into this journey, start a journey of a value-add orchestrator?
I got that question in the last months several times from external parties. And I always say it's pretty easy to copy PowerPoint slides, but it's not so easy to copy the mindset, the expertise, and the collaboration trust of the people. And this is the real secret of every transformation process. You have to empower, you have to motivate the people. And this is the recommendation I would always give to others. Take care of the people. You have to motivate the people that they have the buy-in and see this transformation process as an opportunity and not as a threat. And this is the key issue.
Thanks, Klaus, for this very positive statement that it's an opportunity, not a threat. It's a nice challenge. And now some insights from Siemens, because I had the pleasure to work together with Klaus for a quite long time in the meantime. He's a role model. When you think about the pandemic, he was the first guy who had always camera on. He's also the person who asked in the meetings the first question, what about your family business? So family is most important. Or thirdly, he's always well prepared. So not like me, killing every agenda, he's always on time. On top of this, when you consider now the strategic priorities of Siemens for the future, growth mindset, empower people, Klaus started this journey already 2017. And with this mindset that he's, telling us, he is also walking the talk. So this leads me now to the, from my point of view, most interesting question. And it's not last but not least, who is Klaus Staubitzer?
Klaus Staubitzer, you mean in my private life?
Yes, in your private life.
I'm not so much apart from Klaus Staubitzer in the business life. I like to do sports with my family and with friends. I like skiing and other things. And that's the activity I can recharge my battery. Go out with your friends, have really fun, doing something physically, doing some sports. That's the thing I really like most.
Thanks, Klaus, for your great insights. It was a pleasure and an honor to have you as a guest. And I hope for you, as my listeners, you also enjoyed this episode of our DigiPodcast. If you have any questions about SCM DigiNetwork and now especially about Siemens SCM, don't hesitate, reach out to our internet page siemens.com/DigiNetwork. I'm looking forward having you as a listener to our next episode. Yours, Thomas Holzner from the Siemens SCM DigiNetwork. Goodbye.
The DigiPodcast, Digital Trends in Supply Chain Management.